Hello everyone, I'm Harshit. I will be your instructor for this course. Today we are going to learn what is JavaScript and how does it work. So in order to learn JavaScript, you should already be familiar with HTML and CSS. So first of all, what is JavaScript? JavaScript is a high-level, untyped, interpreted programming language. Now what does these terms mean? High-level means that it is much more user-friendly and uses English-like structures. Python is an example of high-level language. Untyped means that we need not define strict variable types like int or string. We can just use the keyword var for declaring any variable. Again, this is similar to behavior in Python. Now, interpreted programming language means that we need not compile that language into a bytecode. We can just straight away run that program. Now, along with HTML and CSS, JavaScript is one of the three essential technologies of World Wide Web. Now, in the beginning, JavaScript was used to add interactivity to the websites. Today, it is used in many fields like programming a robot in Arduino to writing a game in Unity. It is also used in the server-side web applications in the form of Node.js. So now you must be wondering what is interactivity. Don't worry, we will cover that part very soon. So JavaScript is everywhere. It is the language of the web. The opportunities with JavaScript are endless. So now if you are thinking that JavaScript is a very difficult language to learn, no it's not. It's very easy language to learn. Now if you are using HTML and CSS, you are creating static web pages. Static means that there is no interactivity involved in your web page. Your web page does not respond to any user's action or provide any dynamic content. Now how can you add dynamic content to your website? JavaScript is the answer. You can add dynamic content and add interactivity to your website through JavaScript. Now what is the meaning of interactivity? I will show you an example. For example, we have this temperature converter app. It is a very basic app made from HTML. Right, so all this right now is HTML. Let's see this app in the actual web page. So now we have this web page here. I've made this a small example for this tutorial. So here we need to enter the Celsius value and our app should give us the Fahrenheit value in here. But now if we type and if we hit convert, nothing is happening because this is just the HTML and we have not typed any JavaScript for this. So we have only the static HTML page right now. I will show later how you can convert the Celsius value to Fahrenheit using JavaScript. So JavaScript allows you to add interactivity to your web pages. It allows you to respond to users' actions, add dynamic data, and send or receive data from server. For example, if the user clicks something and he wants to calculate the value of something, like addition of two numbers, so you can do that with JavaScript very easily. Or you can use JavaScript to add functionality in your website, like checking if the user is logged in or not. So if the user is not logged in, you can redirect the user to your login page in the website. So not only the JavaScript calculates something, but it can improve the appearance of the website too. It can interact with the DOM, which is the document object model, to update the content and styling dynamically. It can also make your site navigation easy and interactive. And as I have already said earlier, it can perform calculations. And validations means that checking if the user entered data is correct or not. Like checking for minimum length, combination of uppercase and lowercase letters, etc. You can do all of that with JavaScript. Okay, now here is a fun fact for you. Some people think that Java and JavaScript are somehow related, but they are not. Okay? They are totally different programming languages. Java is a full programming language and it is not just a script. It is a compiled language and it's independent of the web. So Java is a compiled language but JavaScript is an interpreted language. Uh, when we need to run Java, we need to compile it into a bytecode, but for JavaScript, we can straight away interpret that code and run it. It is interpreted by the browser. So Java is independent of the web. You can use Java with web technologies, but it is not required. It is not necessary to use web technologies with Java. It can do its own stuff outside of web. On the other hand, JavaScript is an interpreted language especially designed for the web. So now let's see how does JavaScript works. It can be embedded in your HTML pages, so you can directly embed script element in your HTML code and you can use JavaScript. We will see that very soon. Otherwise, you can also create a JavaScript file and include it in your HTML page. So JavaScript is executed on the client side. So it's very fast, and once it's loaded, no connection is needed from the server to execute it. Now it uses simple programming structures combined with HTML tags. And as I said earlier, it is an interpreted language. Now there are two types of languages. One is a compiled language and another is an interpreted language. Compiled language is one when you compile it first and create a binary version of it. And when you execute this binary, it will work. For example, Java. But interpreted means, for example, JavaScript is an interpreted language. We don't need to compile it, but it can be used directly on the browser and it can be interpreted by the browsers. So now you can say that the browser interprets it, and if it is valid, it will be run and the result will be shown to the user. So now that we have some knowledge of JavaScript, let's actually see in the browser how does JavaScript work and how can we write some basic JavaScript code. Now this is a browser. So in the most modern browsers, we have this feature where we can run JavaScript code in the browser itself. Now to go to that console, you have to right click on your browser and then click on inspect. Here we can see the option of console. Now this is the JavaScript console. Here we can write any JavaScript code and it will be interpreted by the browser and we can see its result instantly. So let's try our first JavaScript program. Now this is a variable declaration sentence in the JavaScript. After that we will type a function called greet. Now we are just console logging the message and let's close the function and let's at the end call the function. So here you can see that we have written a small JavaScript code and we have got its result instantly. Hello world is the result. So now we have successfully run some JavaScript code. Wow, this is exciting. We actually executed some JavaScript code right in the browser console. So now let's look into the browser consoles and try to understand this JavaScript code. So first we are storing the string message in the variable msg. Then we are defining a function greet. Note that we haven't defined any return type of the function. That is why JavaScript is an untyped dynamic language. So inside the function we have a console.log statement. Now this is a very common statement which you will encounter in JavaScript code everywhere. This simply tells the browser to print the message on the console. So now we close this function and now at the end we call this function. So now we have the output. So this was a very basic example of JavaScript. Now let's type in some more JavaScript in order to get the hang of it. Let's try to complete this Celsius to Fahrenheit app. Now here is the code for that web page. We can see that it's purely HTML. Now we need to add interactivity to this web page. We need to add JavaScript code in order to convert the Celsius value to the Fahrenheit value. Now let's start with adding an on-click event to this button. So we are adding an on-click event to this button. The name of the method is convert. So this statement tells the browser to execute this function convert whenever the user clicks on this button. So we can add our JavaScript code right into this HTML file. For that we use the script tag. This script tag tells the browser to interpret the code inside this as JavaScript code and run it. So let's add some JavaScript code inside this. Let's define this convert method. We have already seen before how we can define functions in JavaScript. Again, note that we did not specify any return type for this function. Let's first save the Celsius value in a variable. So what we are doing here is we are getting this element by ID. We have specified an ID for this HTML element text, and we are getting its value, and we are storing that value in a variable called Celsius. Now we need to calculate the Fahrenheit value. Now we calculate the Fahrenheit value simply by applying the formula. We multiply the Celsius value by 9, divide by 5, and then add 32 to it. Now we need to populate this value back into this HTML element, and we need to display the Fahrenheit value to the user. So first we get the element. And we type in the ID value, this value. We can just copy paste this value, and we need to set its value to the above calculated result. So what we are doing in this is that we are storing the Celsius value in a variable. We are getting the Celsius value from this input tag. We are getting the tag by specifying its ID, and then we are calculating the Fahrenheit value by applying the formula. So you can see here that we can easily do mathematical operations in JavaScript. So then at the last we populate the Fahrenheit value to the input text place to display it to the user. So let's try to run this file in the browser. So this is our app. Let's type in 30 and let's hit convert. Wow, this works. So we have successfully converted the Celsius value to the Fahrenheit value. This is really the exciting. We wrote some JavaScript code to calculate the Fahrenheit value and dynamically update it in the DOM. This is really working. So now I have a task for you. You need to provide option to the user to convert the Fahrenheit value back to the Celsius value. For that you need to provide one more button in here so that the user can click on it and convert the Fahrenheit value to the Celsius value. Go ahead, try this. I will share my solution with you shortly. So here is my solution to you. I have created two buttons, one from convert Celsius to Fahrenheit and one from convert Fahrenheit to Celsius. So let's look at the code. So in the code I have created two functions. One is to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit and one is to convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius. The second function is almost similar to the first function. We just convert the Fahrenheit to Celsius, and in the first function we convert Celsius to Fahrenheit. And on the second button we attach the function convert Fahrenheit. So when the user clicks on this button, this function gets called. So the working of this function is exactly similar to the working of the previous function we have seen. So let's try to run this file in browser. So here we can enter a Celsius value. So let's say 29. Let's convert the Celsius to Fahrenheit. Okay, we are getting the value. So let's convert the Fahrenheit value to Celsius. Let's say 86. Okay, so now we are able to convert the Fahrenheit value back to the Celsius value. So now we have successfully made a very basic Fahrenheit to Celsius and Celsius to Fahrenheit converter app. I hope this course was useful for you. This course was designed to give you an overview of JavaScript. I hope you liked this course, and I hope you will continue learning JavaScript.